for more, we can cross to the U.S. and speak to Matt Garin, a cybersecurity expert at IT consulting company Wavestone. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Just first, your reaction to this mass outage. Are these kinds of incidents sort of to be expected, or in your opinion, is this something that should have been avoided?
Well, actually, it's a massive one. It's definitely a massive one. Unfortunately, what happens here is not so surprising for cybersecurity and resilience experts. I mean, all companies are in the process of consolidating their information system around, very few powerful vendors, cloud platforms, operating systems, and here even security components. And so they're very good at what they're doing, but the day something happens, it can be a catastrophe because they're everywhere in all different companies.
And for the non-tech savvy among us, can you explain kind of in very basic terms exactly what actually did happen?
Yeah, sure. Actually, CrowdStrike is, as you said, is a vendor. It's called an EDR. That means in endpoint detection response. So basically, it's a modern antivirus component that is able to detect not only simple malware, but advanced malicious behavior. And in order to do that, they need to go very deep in the system and be quite intrusive by design. And so that's the problem. It can interfere sometime with the operating system, with Windows, and lead to this kind of outage when there is a problem.
And how do you fix this kind of outage? Microsoft has said that it's been dealt with, that things are sort of returning to normal. But can you explain perhaps maybe what they did to fix it and how long that's going to take?
Yeah, so the real problem here is that the workaround is manual. You have this, blue screen of death. This is how you call it, like when you have this blue screen and you cannot do anything with your computer. And so it involves resolving it, involves booting up Windows machines into, safe mode, finding a file, deleting it, and then rebooting it. So you cannot do anything remote. And that's the problem that they have here. So when you have 100,000 computers to reboot in your organization, I can tell you it takes a long, long time. You have to bring people on workstations. And so this is actually very close in terms of impacts to, the major cyber attack, remember, that we had in 2017 called NotPetya. It was exactly the same thing. You had to fix manually each single device on your network. So it can take days and weeks for some companies to recover.
In this case, though, it was definitely not a cyber attack, right? I mean, they said that it was a mistake in the system. As an IT consultant, what would you recommend companies do to avoid these kinds of problems in the future?
It's not an easy one for companies. This is what we call supply chain security in our industry. I would say here companies need to try as much as possible to deploy staging updates. Instead of updating all their components all at once, they need to try, to stage it and to maybe start by a few computers before deploying it everywhere to test it. The problem is that it's not always technically possible. So they need to talk to their vendors. They need to talk to their providers in order to make it possible. So that can be a big deal. But I would say, this is what I would recommend to avoid this kind of situation.
And do you think that this is something that we should be worried about? In the future, are we just going to have more and more of these incidents, given how increasingly dependent we are on technology?
Yeah, and on this consolidation, as I told you, yes. Definitely. I think that's the number one priority, and it should probably be the number one priority of regulators all across the world, governments, to make sure that you control and that we regulate these kind of companies and make sure that their security actually is secured enough.